Well, in that vein, the Alabuga work program in Russia has reportedly been using local social media influencers to recruit young women around Africa as workers for munitions factories. That's according to some reports. It's alleged that the Alabuga startup program is linked to international human trafficking syndicates. None of that has been proven, at least locally, at this stage. You'll recall this conversation is about 4 or 5 days old now after several South African influencers, one of them, in fact, shot a video in front of what appeared to be the facilities where this company would be based, saying they were looking for young women between the ages of 18 and 22. Unclear just how much work they will be doing. Let's speak to researcher for the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime, Ken Opala, who's joining us this evening, I believe, by phone. Ken, good to have your time. You are the co-author, pardon me, of a report, Who is Making Russia's Drones? And I want us to take a few steps back before we get to the issue of the drones and talk about the origins of the Alabuga training program and its intent.
Thanks so much for having me. Just before I delve into that discussion, first let me give a short, brief background to help our viewers understand the subject. The Alabuga Special Economic Zone is a large industrial engineering complex in an area in southwest part of Russia. The area is called Tatarstan. This Tatarstan, the Alabuga Special Economic Zone produces thousands of attack and reconnaissance drones for use by Russia in its war with Ukraine. These drones are Iranian designed and they are called Shahed. I think in English it's Shahed. So first with this, with a major labor shortage in part because the Russian men are fighting in the war in Ukraine, the management of the Alabuga Special Economic Zone thought about starting the drone production facilities using students from Alabuga Polytechnic. But however, the labor force from the Polytechnic was not enough, and it was expensive at the same time. So the authorities decided to target migrant workers from Africa through a program they call Alabuga Start, of course, to meet the labor shortfall. But the kind of recruitment they were involved in wouldn't meet international standards. So they decided to use deceptive means of recruiting. Of course, that involved duping young African girls who had just left high school with non-existent scholarships and promises of further education. Mm-hmm. Initially, this recruitment targeted young women aged 18 to 22, primarily from Africa, but since then, the program has expanded, and now it's become global and draws more countries from Latin America, South Asia, and the former Soviet
right.
States. At the moment, this program targets about 84 countries.
Is this a legitimate work opportunity?
There's so much into it. There's issue about deception in recruitment. There's issue about exploitation. There's so much into it that casts doubts to the legitimacy of this program.
Would it be fair, Ken, because the conversation, these videos by the social media influencers, the conversation sparked from there is that this sounds, or at least appears, because the detail was so vague when the influencers put it out over the weekend, it raised fears, concern that it might be some sort of human trafficking network. Would that be accurate legally?
When you talk about human trafficking, there's an element of threat and use of force. It's a form of coercion. But this is about fraudulent exploitation. And fraudulent exploitation is about deception and manipulation. So I would call it, of course, the elements of trafficking in it. If you have to go by the United Nations Convention on Organized Crime, but I think this is fraudulent exploitation and not necessarily human trafficking.
So what then should be best practice, I wonder, for the young people who might be interested in taking this up? For instance, once they're in this region of Russia, are they allowed free movement? Can they, at any point in the program, decide they no longer wish to continue, pull out and come back home?
The problem with this program is that the recruits are forced to sign non-disclosure agreements. That means that they don't speak to the press, they don't talk to the press, they don't go public with information about the way the working conditions and the way they're exploited. So there's some level of secrecy, and that of course indeed any way in which those who feel aggrieved can be able to influence potential recruits.
And Ken, very briefly, if you can, do we know, I wonder if you know, if there are already any South African young women taking part in this program? And what about the other African countries where there are confirmed nationals who are in this region of Russia? What has been their response to the way this program appears to work?
Our research showed that there's been some level of recruitment in South Africa through though we don't know the exact number of the young girls recruited from South Africa. But what we know is that a good number of them were recruited. There was so much promotion and advertising in South Africa. Online promotion, online advertising, and social media influencers were heavy in recruitment of these young girls. So there's been some recruitment in South Africa, but we can't tell the exact number of the young girls affected.
All right.
This is a breaking story. So there hasn't been so much movement from African governments. Kenya and Uganda, they think so much. I mean, it's still quiet, still mum. But there's a number of countries, including South Africa, I think, that are investigating the issue, and hopefully there'll be more countries that the government have to come up and investigate and just sort of like help get to the depth of this matter.
Ken Opala, good to talk to you, co-author of a report, Who is Making Russia's Drones, speaking to us about recent videos posted online by influencers on social media, basically advertising for young women to take up what appear to be training opportunities, or jobs at least, in Russia. The South African government saying it is investigating after some people said this bared the hallmarks of possibly some sort of human trafficking scheme. I say possibly because we've not had a conclusive finding yet by the government. This is The Full View. Stay with us.